Hello everyone, welcome to a very special video. I'm DTM as always, and it is that time of year. We are approaching the release of CYL 8, the reveal of these brave units, and as is tradition on this channel, we will be making a tier list just looking back at our past CYL units and seeing how they fare in the current day. And yeah, this is something I do every year, again, as a retrospective and in anticipation of the new batch of heroes. And I'm super excited about what some of the units could be, like Brave Female Robin and the like. But yeah, let's look at these current units that we have and see how they fare. This list is based on how valuable I think they are versus other options. And this is mainly focusing on the competitive mode. So that would be like Arena, Aether8's offense, Aether8's defense, and Summoner's Duels, both S and R. And obviously, each mode will have a different influence. In my mind, there's not like an objective score system or anything like that. Although I will say Summoner's Duels is probably the most influential, while Arena is being the least, just due to how like the various modes work, of course. But yeah, nothing else to do but to get on our way, starting with the first unit of the batch. We have Brave Ike, the OG Omni Tank. And now we have Emblem Ike, the new omnipresent Omni Tank. So Brave Ike has definitely fallen from his glory days back in like 2019, 2020, early 2020. Fatal Smoke definitely put a hindrance on him. Not even Fatal Smoke, honestly. It was mainly Dual Lift that put a hindrance on him. And especially now with a lot of the high-speed units, it's harder to speed stack him, which is how you mainly ran Brave Ike, at least when he was at his apex. And even though we do have a lot of tools for Brave Ike as an Omni Tank, like we have Lagoo's Friend, Godlike Reflexes, Buffer, all those sort of skills. Unfortunately, Brave Ike is not the best user of those skills, and there are definitely a lot better Omni Tanks in the current meta than him. So unfortunately, I think he has to be in like E, because like, yeah, he's definitely not like an S tier by any rank. And I mean, E tier, you can still use Brave Ike, obviously. You can make him work, but like, why, right? Like, it's going to be a really big struggle, and there's like no reason really to use Brave Ike these days, unfortunately. Especially now with Emblem Ike, so all the Ike fans can just like migrate over to Emblem Ike, and you know, you have it solved. So there's not even favoritism aspects to that, funnily enough. But yeah, Brave Ike is definitely going to be an E tier. Next up, we have Brave Roy. All right, next up we have Brave Lynn. Actually, I think I put Brave Roy at last because, again, Eliwood, OG Eliwood is there, so yeah. All right, at last, rounding out the CYL batch, we do have Brave Lucina. And unlike both Brave Ike, Brave Lynn, and Brave Roy, Brave Lucina is not totally 100% combat focused, although you can make her into a combat unit with like the Arcane Lewin inheritable, which is honestly one of the best arcane weapons we've gotten. And she does function, and she does actually have the speed and stats necessary to make like a Godlike Reflexes, Lagoo's Friend / Buffer build work. But not only that, but she's still like with her perf weapon, she can still function as a support, giving out some good stats. And you know, with the return of the Omni Tank meta, I actually do think that just pumping up more stats, or like even running other skills like infantry support skills or like Breath of Life or things like that, is actually pretty good. Now, she's definitely not meta by any stretch of the word. So like, don't take this as me gassing Brave Lucina up to be something that you should use in something like Summoner's Duels R or anything. But I'm saying like, compared to like Brave Ike, Brave Roy, and Brave Lynn, there is actually like more justification in using her versus like those other units, right? And so like, it's definitely not going to be the easiest, but it's a lot easier to make her work as something in like ether raids, for example. And so, yeah, I actually do think Brave Lucina is in C tier. And so probably like the last in C tier, I would say. But again, the fact that she does provide support means that there is like more of a longevity to her to this day. Special acceleration is still pretty nice, especially you can like outsource both special acceleration and infantry NFU potentially, and so you can like have your tank like have some other different skills like maybe tempo instead of NFU or things like that, or just like focus on like the Legu's friend Gale reflexes. Not much of a use for special acceleration there, but like for certain builds it can be useful. And so yeah, Brave Lucina I think is definitely the best of the current CYL 1 batch, which as a Lucina fan I really like. So yeah, yay. Next we have is Brave Celica, and Brave Celica unfortunately is super awkward. She would be a really good Gale Force initiator if it wasn't for the fact that the weapon that she has, the Refine, heals her, which is really bad for Gale Force initiator, because obviously you want to get into a low HP in order to become a wand beacon for units to warp in and stuff. And so that like makes it so that you can't really use Brave Celica as like an initiator. So I guess follow up, but that'll get rid of her perf B, which means that in order to run something like Wings of Mercy 4 or something like that, and you might be thinking, oh, I could just use Wings of Mercy Echo. No, you can't actually use that because you can't use perf skills with Echo skills. So again, Celica is super awkward. And unfortunately, that means that there's not really much of a place for her. Now, with the rise of the Celica ring, she can actually, I guess, have some sort of role as like a melee nuke. We've been seeing some melee nukes on the rise in something like Summoner's Duels or even in Ether Raids. And like, I guess in Arena, you can like pull off some really cool Gale Force plays or hit and run plays, I guess. But that doesn't change the fact that she's still really awkward to deal with and to actually use. And unfortunately, there's not really much of a place for her. Even in the places like melee nukes where she can still function, like there's not really a reason to use her over the other options. She's definitely really outclassed, especially in the damage output. She doesn't really have any true damage. I think. I mean, it's mainly just the Brave, I believe. But yeah, unfortunately, that means Celica is in D tier. I do think she's better than Brave Ike, because again, like, you can still have her in that melee nuking role, and theoretically, if you have some other way to get her in, like maybe Celica Ring, you can make her into a follow-up Gale Force unit. But you do need like a lot of effort to make that happen. Not as much effort as in the E tier, but yeah, it is what it is. All right, next up we have is Brave Hector. Oh man, I remember when Brave Hector got his Refine and he became like literally the most broken thing, especially with save skills being released soon after. But yeah, we're far from those glory days, but honestly, Brave Hector is, is serviceable, I think. Like, especially with the meta being a lot of debuffs, we have like Sabotage and Discord and all that, being able to neutralize penalties by yourself is just really good. And like, armors, you run this basic hardy fighter build basically, and like, it can function. Now, it's not going to be that great, but like, I don't think it will be that bad. Like saves, there are a lot more places where you can put saves, like in Ether Raid's defense, or you could, I guess theoretically you can have like a backup save ball in Ether Raid's offense. And theoretically you can make him work in Summoner's Duels, although I definitely wouldn't recommend it. But like, he's not so unusable that it would be out of the ordinary to see like someone who really loves Hector bust out the Brave Hector in their Summoner's Duels runs. Like, people ran Valentine's Ike in Summoner's Duels and reached rank 1 in SDS even SDR, I believe. And so like, yeah, like if you are determined, you can do it. And with Brave Hector, I don't think it would be like that unreasonable. Again, it'll definitely still take a lot of effort, but like you can do it. And yeah. Meanwhile, we have like Brave Ephraim, and unfortunately I don't think Brave Ephraim compares to his fellow armor brother. So yeah, he doesn't really have anything going for him, unfortunately. Like again, you can still make him function as like a save tank, but compared to Brave Hector, it's just not as good. Damage and combat wise, survivability wise, honestly, like just effects wise, like he doesn't have the neutralizing penalties. He doesn't really have anything, to be really honest. He just really has like a guaranteed follow-up, I believe, and maybe some healing, but like, yeah, I don't think that's really good enough to alleviate him from F tier. Yeah, he's just not that great, unfortunately. Next up, we have is Brave Veronica, and I remember hearing about how like everyone chose Brave Veronica when CYL 2 happened. I wasn't there, but Brave Veronica was really, really good. I mean, Cav healers in general were really good, and certain Cav healers to this day are still really, really good, especially as we're in like a Cav line meta in Ether 8's defense. Now, unfortunately, due to the rise of tanking, you definitely do need to be able to actually pack a punch in terms of your offenses. And unfortunately, Veronica doesn't really have that. And not even that, like, I did mention last year that she would really, really like a flash special. And we did get a flash special, which is really, really cool. I manifested it. Sorry, Oblivion. But the unfortunate part is that NCD is just really, really common. And like, yeah, Emblem Ike, which is like the main Omni tank, does have MCD built in. And unfortunately, like, that really detracts the value of having flash and healers in general with like the Razzle Dazzle strat. So yeah, a bit unfortunate. And so unfortunately, like, I mean, I guess you could still use her in Ether 8's defense and it can work. You can do like restore or return traps. Those always will help catch people off guard, and you can definitely make some good like showcases with that. But unfortunately, like, it's not really that useful, unfortunately. So I think I'll have to put her in D. Next up we have is Brave Alm, and I remember back in, I think it was 2021 or something, the early days of Thunder Duels, when I actually used Brave Alm because he had like +1 movement and really, really good melee offenses to get around people running far saves back then. Now, these days, I think the main reason people would use Brave Alm nowadays would be to basically run the AoE Gale Force Initiator build on Brave Alm, which is actually still really good in terms of damage output. The only issue, in my personal opinion, about that is it's really, really hard to get him to WOM range when you have him as an initiator, because Shen Scale does 7 damage, while Fury 3 does 6, and that is 13. With mythic buffs, even with minus HP, no flowers, no merges, nothing, he has 57 HP, which means that one combat is not enough to get him into WOM range, unfortunately. Even with Wings of Mercy 4. And so, yeah, you have to get danced or somehow get your action refreshed without relying on WOM in order to get him into WOM range when initiating. Either that, or you basically have Winter Bernadetta or something similar that can apply like self damage, and you use Ardent Sacrifice to get him down. And then once he's like has low enough HP, you then go in, and then you're already in WOM range. And I know like you run like Wrath 3, that's like the strat, but until you get like a Wrath 4, I don't think it's really worth, especially because like obviously with that you can't initiate turn 1. It is easier for Gale Force initiators nowadays. Now we have Celica ring, but again, that doesn't alleviate the issues he has of getting into WOM range in the first place. And so yeah, he's a bit awkward to use, but like you can use him, and as a melee initiator with AoE, it's actually really good. It's just that, again, it's really, really hard to use effectively with like the HP conditions. And so unfortunately, that means that Alm has to be in C tier. I do think he's better than these two though, so I'll put him in the top of C tier for now. Alright, next we have his Brave Ephraim, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't think Brave Ephraim is really that good. Like, all he has is like beast effectiveness and I think like Canto, which is like, you know, cool. So many other units have so many other things that are so much better. Like, as a Cav nuke, like, he did get a little bit of a rise with Celica Ring, but again, I don't think that's enough to really make him worth it. But like, he's not like E terrible or F terrible, so I guess like he can be in D, I guess. Yeah, that looks about right. Alright, Brave Micaiah, aka Attuned Micaiah at home. Okay, in all seriousness though, like, while I wouldn't say Brave Micaiah is great, I don't think she's bad. Like, that bad either. Like, as a range flyer, you do have a lot of options. You can like run guidance, you can run Soren guidance. She has some good res, so you can even run like ploy or like better versions of sabotages if you really want to, with Far Trace 4 and the like. You probably want to ditch the B skill, honestly, for something else, like run like either Occultist Strike, or now we have Resonance, which is really, really cool. Allows her to get through damage reduction support. And like the armor and cav effectiveness is still really, really good to this day. So yeah. Green is a little bit of a fortunate color to be, because we have a lot of powerful red tanks, mainly Emblem Mike. It does help you get past Theta though, so I guess like something. So yeah, while I wouldn't say like Brave Micaiah is that powerful of a nuke, I don't think she's like that terrible of a nuke either. So I think she belongs in C, honestly. Like, again, I do like a lot of the new skills that flyer nukes have gotten. Again, with Resonance, Far Trace 4 if you're into the mobility, all the mobility C skills, of course, and the like. Yeah, I think Brave Micaiah is, you know, okay. Like, she's not good, but she's not bad either. So I think that will be in C tier, yeah. I like this. Yeah. Alright, next up we have is Brave Camilla. And Brave Camilla was so close to greatness, honestly. Like, if she just had Canto in her weapon and probably had more like damage output, like, you would make her into a really, really good gravity hit and run unit in something like Aether8's offense. And that would have been really, really cool. Unfortunately, she does not. And so she does suffer from that, and the fact that she doesn't hit that hard anymore. And unlike, so like, and again, like, we have gotten a lot of NCD even on armors, so like Razzle Dazzle is not as powerful as it once was. You still get the benefit of a lot of the flyer skills though, like guidance, soaring guidance, that, and like as a healer, you obviously have a lot of the staffs that you can just inherit into her if you don't like her base weapon. So she got that going for her. So like, overall, like, I think there are like very specific ways you can make her work. Maybe run like Magic Shield or something, and like to like help extend the range or something. I don't know, there's probably some plays you can cook up with that, but it's definitely not worth it in my opinion. But I guess it is usable if you like try hard enough, so I guess that belongs in D. Yeah, I guess that works. I think she is better actually than these two. Yeah, I like it. Again, it would have been so good if she just had Canto in her weapon refined, and we would have been like actually Gucci. So yeah, a little bit unfortunate she was missing that one piece, but it is what it is. All right, next up we have is Brave Dimitri. And honestly, Brave Dimitri is still a decent tank to this day, right? Like, Legu's friend really helped him out quite a bit. And I think nowadays you run like Legu's friend, I think you run Godlike Reflexes, or like you run, I guess you have to run Godlike Reflexes if you're running Legu's friend. But like, you speed stack him, and then you get a lot of damage reduction and a lot of the flat damage reduction from his weapon, which is really, really good. You definitely ditched the B. And yeah, he's still pretty good as a tank, honestly. Like, obviously, we have a lot of tanks that outshines him, like Sita, Legendary Maleer, Emblem Ike, etc., etc. But honestly, you could have done worse. You could do worse, you know? Like, Brave Dimitri is still a pretty good tank. I definitely wouldn't say he's meta, or like, I definitely wouldn't recommend using him either. But like, if you want to and are like a Dimitri fan, like, you wouldn't be suffering that much, right? And so, yeah, he's still a pretty like decent tank. So I actually do think he's in B tier. Again, like, with a lot of the tanking skills that we've had with Breath of Life 4 support, etc., like, Brave Dimitri is actually in an okay place, like a good place. So yeah, B tier. All right, we have Claude next, and unfortunately, Claude is not in a good place. His main claim to fame was like heal tanking, and heal tanking is not good. I'm just gonna be completely honest. Like, yeah, we have Breath of Life 4, yeah, we have Hector now, but Claude just does not have the damage reduction. I mean, okay, Claude does not have the tankiness, that's what I should say, to be able to tank effectively. Because again, his main gimmick was him taking a bunch of damage and then healing it all back up. Well, whoop-de-doo, if you get one shot, then that doesn't matter, right? I guess you can run like miracle support, but then you'll still be like weak to Braves, or you can just get like fatal smoked and boom, it's GG's. So yeah, a little bit unfortunate that Claude is kind of bad, honestly, these days. Like, I wouldn't say he's like F tier, because like as a flyer, you can just make him into like a flyer's guided spot thingy mabob. But why would you, right? So yeah, definitely E tier in my opinion. All right, Brave Edelgard. Finally, we're getting to some actually good units. Brave Edelgard, I think is still one of the best near saves we have in the game. She's like really good at stopping units like Winter Edelgard, and can even stop some Sharenas if you have high enough investment, which is really good for something like Ephraim's defense, because obviously Winter Edelgards, Sharenas, and Gale Force in general is on the rise, so being able to put a stop to some of that is really valuable on your defense. The fact that she has like better than infantry movement is still really strong in my opinion, especially in something like Ephraim's defense, where you can like have her move to a place to protect the defense after like the defense initiates. Helps a little bit with the protection, makes it a lot more annoying to deal with, which is really good. Like, Brave Edelgard just has so many daunt effects, and daunt effects are really good at stopping the offenses of the many melee nukes that we have. And yeah, you can even use her as like a far save. I wouldn't recommend it, but it has been done. You definitely run like Fallen Shield or something, but like you can make it work for certain teams. And yeah, like, I do think Brave Edelgard actually is like in a really good place, like not just good place, but in a great place. I wouldn't say she's meta, like top of the meta S tier, but I do think there's a lot of reasons why you would use her. And so yeah, I do think she belongs in A, where like I can actually point to reasons why I would recommend Brave Edelgard in certain scenarios, which is a lot better than all the units below her currently. So yeah, yeah, like, congrats to Brave Edelgard for being the first unit to not suck on this list. Obviously, I'm joking, but am I? But yeah, no, but in all seriousness, like, Brave Edelgard, I actually do have reasons I would recommend her for certain, like, cases. So yeah, she belongs in A. All right, next up we have is Brave Lysithea, the last of the CYL 4 batch. And Brave Lysithea is interesting because she does actually has self-damage in her weapon refine. It's not as good as Winter Bernadetta's self-damage, where it also applies to those within 2 spaces of her. But just having self-damage to herself alone is very, very good because it just unlocks so much. You can set up vantage plays with it. You can set up your wand beacons with it. Obviously, I mentioned it with Brave Alm. And for defenses where you don't have to initiate turn 1, like being able to just set up your wand beacon is just really, really nice and flexible. So yeah, I do think Brave Lysithea, just from that alone, is really, really valuable. It is sort of stymied by the fact that we do have a lot of other units that can do it, like Winter Bernadetta, Spring Bernadetta, and even, I think, T. Lysithea can. But Brave Lysithea is an infantry unit, so you can also have other infantry supports, like infantry no follow-up, things like that can be really, really helpful, like Infantry Pulse, for instance, to help with your Gale Force plays. So yeah, like she does have some benefits over the other ones. So that is something. I don't think it makes it worth recommending her, but you can definitely make it work and you can use her pretty effectively. So I do think she's in B tier. I don't think she's as valuable as Brave Dimitri, but like, I don't think it's that far behind, in my personal opinion. Again, I really value that self-damage a lot. It's really, really good. So, yeah, hopefully when Brave Bernadetta comes out, she can, like, set her allies to 50% HP, and it will be absolutely amazing. Alright. Next up, we have is Gatekeeper. And Gatekeeper, unfortunately, we're in an Omni-Tank meta. So Gatekeeper being both anti-warping and having the healing is actually really good now. Because the anti-warping really helps when, obviously, to prevent any of the movement shenanigans. Normally that wouldn't be the case because if you ran saves, you didn't really care that much anyways. But with Omni-Tanks, the warp denial becomes really, really good. Not even in offense, but even in defense, where it can definitely help with turn 1 initiations. Because the thing about MERS is that the warp denial, the warp bubble, doesn't actually activate on turn 1. So turn 1 Gale Force teams can just warp in as usual and do their thing. But Gatekeeper actually applies turn 1 on the player phase. And so, yeah, he does have that really, really good niche. I have seen some Gatekeepers on Ethereum's defense. And so, yeah, there is actually a lot of reasons to use Gatekeeper these days, which makes me really sad because I'm not a big Gatekeeper fan. I actually do not like him at all. But I can't deny that he is actually pretty valuable these days. I wouldn't say like top of the line meta because I think many people just run Myrrh in general and just rely on traps and Myrrh's natural tankiness to be able to stop potential turn 1 plays. But yeah, he still has his place. And again, there are legitimate reasons where I would actually recommend him. And so, yeah, he belongs in A. Probably better than Brave Edelgard, honestly. All right. Next up, we have is Brave Marth. Oh boy, I think I might anger a bunch of the folks in the Phaeology Discord because I know there's a bunch of Brave Marth fans out there. I've never been a Brave Marth fan, to be perfectly honest. I've never been a Vantage fan, to be perfectly honest. And yeah, I have to be consistent with that, I guess. Like, I don't think Brave Marth is that strong. Now, I don't think he's bad, because you can definitely make him work, right? You run, like, No Quarter, you run, Special Spiral 4, you run... Actually, you don't even run No Quarter. I think you run, like, Gust or something, I think. Yeah, you run Gust, you run Special Spiral 4, and then you run the new NCD Echo skill, and that'll allow him to Vantage and, like, not have to worry about sweep units, which are, like, one of the main ways you deal with Vantage units. It doesn't help you deal against units with Hardy Bearing, but hopefully you can play around that. So he's not, like, bad. It's just that I don't think that it's really worth using him over other teams. Like, we have like Attune Eirika, even though I don't think Attune Eirika is that good either. Like, I do think Attune Eirika is a similar role. And like, if I say that about Attune Eirika, like, I say the same for Brave Marth. So yeah, again, I'm not the biggest fan, to be perfectly honest, of Brave Marth. I don't think his tankiness is that good. I don't think his damage output could be played around. I think Vantage in general is just not that strong, because there's quite a bit of ways around that. And yeah, again, I do think he's better than like D though, so I will put him in C. Honestly, probably like the top of C. But yeah, like, I don't know. I'm not, again, I find Vantage to be pretty unreliable, to be perfectly honest. And even among the Vantage users, I don't think Brave Marth is particularly the best. And also, like, yeah, I don't think he particularly stands out either, unfortunately. All right, next we have is Brave Marianne. And, okay, anyone who follows this channel for a while knows my opinions on Brave Marianne. I think Brave Marianne is pretty cracked, not gonna lie. I think she's super underrated, because I remember when she first released, people were so down on her gravity applying to her, to like the dance unit, which made absolutely no sense to me, because like when you're gale forcing, the gravity effect literally does not matter at all, because you're warping, you're with like Wings of Mercy and stuff like that, and especially with her refine, you basically are super consistent in running, like, and getting that refresh. You literally, I think like the only way you don't get the Requiem dance these days with the weapon refine is if like the opponent has Scowl or something, right? Which is very rare on like non-saves. And again, like, Marianne is a follow-up unit, so you shouldn't be dealing with those types of saves anyways. And yeah, like, being able to both attack a unit and refresh a unit is insanely strong, because it makes you a 2-for-1 dancer. And 2-for-1 dancers allow you to trade up in action eco. And unlike, you know, regular dancers where it's 1-for-1, where you just dance a unit to have one additional combat for that one dancer, Brave Marianne, you have the one combat for her, and then the combat of the refreshed unit. And so again, that's 2-for-1. And so she's very unique in that regard. And also the fact that she doesn't count for the dancer limit means that in something like Chaos Season, which I know is a very big meme because Chaos Season is actually so much of a joke, it's so easy. But that is something to mention. And like, in general, I do think like she's really good to slot in just regular Ether Rates offense, like Gale Force teams. Like, she's really good. I feel like she's super underrated. So yeah, I think she's A. She's not meta, but like, I do think she's really good. So yeah. Yeah. All right, next up we have is Brave Eirika. And Brave Eirika definitely got a pretty bad reception when it came to her refine. I think with Celica Ring though, and with her, with the current like skills that we've recently gotten, the current meta, she actually hits really hard. I've been hearing some tech down the grapevine that if you put Celica Ring on her and put her in like a Summoner's Duels team, she actually puts in a lot of work. And with the Kanto too, like you can like have that flexibility to help prevent, make it more awkward for the opponent to retaliate against you. And so yeah, that's the tech I've been hearing rumors of. Apparently it's really strong, and people have run Summoner's Duels with it. I definitely wouldn't recommend it, to be perfectly honest. I think there's a lot better melee nukes that you can use. Like, I think Spring Carla is the one mainly floating around. there's definitely others, like Brave Marth, even. Not Brave Marth, Emblem Marth, even. But, like, I do think, like, there are ways to make it work with Brave Eirika, and it wouldn't be that much suffering, so... Because, like, she actually does get a lot of offenses with her Refine. And I think Luna Bangle is just a really, really good skill that scales as, you know, the unit you are initiating against, you know, gets more and more defensive. Like, Luna Bangle will always help with that. And yeah, like, I think she's actually, you know, salvageable. I actually think she's better than Brave Lysithea, in my personal opinion. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, next we have is Brave Chrom. And can you believe he's getting a Refine in like a month? Like, okay, I just want to preface this. Like, take a look at this. This is the usage data of around like a sampling of the players that reached rank 1 this last SDS. And as you can see, Brave Chrom is literally in the top 10 units that are most being used, right? He's literally number 10. More than half of the players that reached rank 1 used Brave Chrom. That is actually insane. And he's getting a Refine in the month. That is actually insane. I mean, we all figured that Brave Chrom would be like the best aging unit of the CYL 6 batch, and well, I guess we were right. The ability to just steal buffs is just timeless, in my opinion. Like, you can take any buff from your ally and with To Change Fate, just put it on himself. This works really, really well, especially with dagger teams. You basically have Mythic Dagger support with a unit, and then you To Change Fate that unit with Chrom, and now you have 3 units with Pathfinder, and it's actually insane. And so, yeah, especially, especially with that ability and the ability to get extra movement, he fits really, really naturally in like Cavline teams and providing a source of action eco, which a lot of Cavline teams, it's harder to get just due to the units you have. Generally, the Cavs that can do that are like Brave Chrom and Rearm Lucina. And yeah, Brave Chrom is just really, really good. Like, and he gets more stats the more bonuses you stack on him. And it doesn't, there's no limit to that. There's no cap. It's uncapped. And so like I've seen BA Radiant Dawn get like plus 50 or something to all stats, which is absolutely ridiculous. Like, it's actually insane. Brave Chrom is ridiculously meta to this day. Not as prominent as like 3 months ago when we were head deep in the Cavline meta, but like as you can see, like still really, really meta. So yeah, nothing less than S tier. Again, being able to steal buffs, not steal, being able to take copy buffs, and like fit really well in those Cav teams in Summer Duels is just super, super valuable and very, very strong. And Brave Chrom, it's ridiculous that it's getting a refine in 6 months, not 6 months, in 1 month. So yeah, I'll say this outright. I think he's the best Brave unit right now in this entire batch of Brave units here. All right, next we have is Brave Seliph. And Brave Seliph used to be Brave Chrom's best friend, but unfortunately times have changed. Brave Seliph, unlike Brave Chrom, his main gimmick was basically the miracle, the extra movement, and basically being able to nuke, basically. Well, extra movement, there's a lot more units that can give that these days, and also extra movement means you have to be worried about stall. So like Brave Seliph is not as valuable as it once was for that specifically. The miracle also isn't as valuable because Brave Seliph is not meant to tank, and we have gotten a lot of units that can outspeed and get through the miracle. Not impossible, or I mean, you could still make it work though. But yeah, it's a little bit more difficult these days than when he was at his apex. And then obviously as a nuke, these days it's a lot harder for him to effectively be able to take out units. You can do some stuff with like AoE pre-charging, run him with like an AoE build, and that works fine. But it definitely takes a lot more effort than it used to. And so yeah, unfortunately Brave Seliph has fallen off a bit. I wouldn't say he's bad by any means. Like, there are people I think that have still used him. I don't know how successful it was, but I think it can be done, and it's definitely still scary to see, especially if you run like hit and run, which gives him like so much more Canto shenanigans. That is really hard to deal with unless you have Canto control. But yeah, definitely far from SNA, unfortunately. So unfortunately, I think it has to be in B. I do think he's the best in B though, so I'll put that there. Yeah, this looks good. All right, next up we have Brave Tiki, and I don't even know what I want to say about Brave Tiki. Brave Tiki's just bad. Okay, like she was bad on release. I was on some sort of copium in like the first 2 weeks saying, okay, we can make this work. The scowl effect is actually pretty interesting. But then like Ascendant Tiki released and it was like, okay, this is a wash. She's actually bad. It popped my hopium on that. Yeah, Brave Tiki's not good. Obviously as a tank you can run like the various tank skills or like run the various dragon skills like High Dragon Wall, Dragon's Roar, things like that, but like there's so many better dragons in my opinion that can make use of those skills. There are so many better free dragons I think that can make use of those skills to make them as an Omni tank that I don't think it's worth using Brave Tiki. She's just bad in my personal opinion. Like I don't think she's F tier bad, but like I think she's close, honestly. Which is actually insane, because I remember last year when I did this tier list last year, I had the same opinion of Brave Tiki being not good. And I received a Reddit comment, I think in the Face subreddit, saying that I was wrong and that unlike Brave Chrom, it is Brave Tiki that actually is still meta relevance. And I think we must have been playing different games, because like in no way is Brave Tiki relevant in any competitive modes. But I guess that's just the Face subreddit for you, you know, like confidently incorrect. So yeah, Brave Tiki, definitely E tier. I will say I do think she is better than like Ephraim, Lynn, and Roy. Like, that, I do think so, but like, that's not saying much, right? So yeah. All right, last of the CYL 6 batch, we have Brave Byleth, and Brave Byleth is interesting because she's supposed to act as a vantage unit, but she's a flyer, and I don't know, it's really, really interesting in my opinion. I mean, she did come with speed preempt, introduce speed preempt. But I think her relying on speed preempt is pretty unreliable these days because she doesn't have enough speed to be able to activate the speed preempt conditions. Unfortunately, she also like doesn't do enough damage. She, I believe, doesn't have a way to get through damage reduction, unfortunately. Divine Pulse is not as good on her as it once was. And so like, even if you do get the Vantage off, like, she's going to have a really hard time being able to take out that unit to prevent, you know, the enemy from just attacking afterwards and potentially killing you. And so it is a little bit unfortunate. There are ways that you can make her work, I think. Like, you can run, like, the guidances and make her into a generic, like, flying frontline, potentially. But I don't think it's that great, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, unfortunately, there's not really a place to use her, too. Like, you can't really use her that effectively in either its offense or defense. definitely not in Summer's duels. I guess you can in Arena, but she doesn't score as well as some of her contemporaries. And again, like, the main thing that's allowing her to actually even function is the fact that she does have access to all the flyer skills, like the guidances, etc., etc. And so, like, you can, like, make her into a frontline and, like, a guidance beacon, but yeah, it's going to be a really, really big struggle. So yeah, I think I would put her in D. I think she's probably better than Eliwood, but yeah, I think D tier is appropriate. All right, we have the CYL 7 batch now. Oh my goodness, we have, honestly, all these units are still pretty solid, at least. Funnily enough, the one we're starting with, I think, is the least solid out of them. Brave Robin. I'm gonna put him here temporarily. Don't take this as face value. Brave Robin, I do actually still think the Rally Spectrum support that he gives is really, really good. It really helps with, like, Emblem Ike, get around Scowl and Hush Spectrum, for instance. It helps Ike actually have a player phase and allowing Great Ether to activate when he hits against, like, ranged units. And yeah, he did get super overshadowed by his young version, which is the main thing that sort of made him fell off. But you know, in something like Summoner's Duels S, you can run, like, both of them, and you do get a lot. You do get like value from running 2 Omni Tanks teams, one with, like, Brave Robin, one with Young Male Robin. And so, like, there is still, like, a place for him. And, like, if you don't have Young Male Robin, like, Brave Robin, I think, works fine, especially even in something like Ether Raids and stuff like that. Like, obviously you would rather have Young Male Robin, but I don't think you would be hurting too much if you had to use Brave Robin, right? And so, yeah, definitely not a unit I'd recommend picking up, but, like, you could still use him effectively, I think, and use him pretty well. It definitely won't be optimal, but, like, I think it will work. All right, next we have is Soren. And I remember in my State of Fate podcast last year talking about these units, I predicted that Soren would be the best aging CYL 7 units from this batch. And honestly, I think that's correct. Soren is really, really good, especially recently, now that we've gotten, like, really, really good units that can act as far saves to make use of his assigned decoy. Because previously, the main issue limiting Soren was the actual units you can use him with were not that great. But now with Legoo's Friend 4 specifically, you can run, like, Soren with, like, Asker, New Year's Asker. You can run him with, like, Emir. And there's this really, really strong team that makes use of Ashnard and either Asker or Emir. Maybe even Nurgle. I think some people have been cooking with that. And, like, you run that Soren ball, and it's really, really hard to actually, like, put a dent in that, because Ashnard provides all these crazy daunts, and then obviously you're protected by the assigned decoy with either Asker, Emir, or, like, I guess Nurgle. And yeah, it's really, really strong. Like, Soren maybe not be in the top 10, but he was in the top 12 of this last SDS usage data. So that just goes to show how, like, strong he is. Now, he does face a weakness in that he's not as reliable in SDR as opposed to SDS, as opposed to, like, Brave Chrom was, because obviously assigned decoy is a bonus, and that is always in danger of being stolen away by something like Summer Thor, or more recently, like, Nurgle. And so that is something you have to keep in mind, which is why you mainly see him in Summer's Duels S, not R. But obviously that doesn't take away from how meta he actually is. And so, yeah, he belongs in S. Not as good as Brave Chrom, again, because of the reasons I described before, but still such a powerful unit. And yeah, definitely the best aging of the CYL 7 unit. Alright, next is Brave Gullveig. And I know a lot of people would be shocked that I don't think Brave Gullveig is the best aging CYL 7 unit, because I use Brave Gullveig literally every single week, if not every single day, most of the time. If you ever seen my Ether 8 offense clears or videos, she's really good still. I think she's like one of the best initiators still in Ether 8's offense, even with units like Summer Gullveig or Sharena, because I think what makes her unique compared to those is just really valuable. For one, she is a flyer, and having flyer movement, being able to navigate around mountains and stuff, just really helps with positioning, especially with a Canto afterwards. Like, it really helps you maneuver to be in the optimal place to help with your clear, and that flexibility is invaluable in something like Gale Force. Second is that, like, she's really good with AoE. Unlike Summer Gullveig, she has like true damage applied to the AoE, and so if you can charge that up, like, the AoE does crazy amounts of damage. And AoE Gale Force, I think, is the way to go these days, because obviously it reduces the surrounding units to very low HP, which allows like other units to more easily warp in, one-tap Gale Force, and then go from there. It makes combat a lot more consistent, especially with people running Emblem Ikes on their teams. With Brave Gullveig, I do not fear Emblem Ikes. Like, the AoE just brings him to 1 HP, and then boom, he's dead. Even with like Breath of Life. And so yeah, the AoE, being able to run the AoE build and having the true damage be a part of that AoE is just really good. And so yeah, I do think Brave Gullveig is insanely strong. Probably, I personally, she's my favorite at the very least. I personally think she's the best initiator of Gale Force right now. I know that might be a hot take with like Winter Edelgards, with Summer Gullveigs, with Sharenas out there, but I personally really love what she brings. And especially now with Celica Ring and Marth Ring, like, it just makes the teams using her a lot more flexible. With Marth Ring, you do not need Asker anymore to get the AoE, which means you can run her on Astra a lot more easily. Previously, you would have to run both Valoria and a unit like Garrick, which you can't do unless you have a bonus mythic. Now you just need Valoria with Marth Ring, and so yeah, that is very strong. And then obviously in Light Season, or if you have a bonus mythic in Astra Season, she could just run Celica Ring now, and you don't even need to smite her in anymore. She has the range of a Cav, so the range advantage of a unit like Sharena or Summer Gullveig just disappears with that, and with it you get all the benefits of the AoEs and like the flyer movement and things like that. And even with Celica Ring, you don't get gravity anymore, so yeah, like, again, Gullveig is insanely strong. Now, why I don't say she's the best of the CYL 7? Well, she's only strong in one mode, and that is Ether 8's offense. And unfortunately, Ether 8's offense is ridiculously easy. So like, her being valuable and really good in Ether 8's offense is not as valuable as, say, like Brave Chrom or Brave Soren, who's really valuable in Summer's duels. But I do think that her insane capabilities as a Gale Forcer, even though it's only in Ether 8's offense, which is not as valuable because it's super easy, I do think her huge strength in that does allow her to be an S tier. And so yeah, I'd put her in S. Definitely behind Brave Chrom and Brave Soren, but again, I highly recommend the AoE Gullveig strat for your Gale Force teams, if you can run it. If you have a Valoria, or I think Bridal Embla. Yeah, Bridal Embla is also a really good pairing, especially since it gets you past saves. And so yeah, like, Brave Gullveig good. Alright. Last but certainly not least, we have Brave Corrin. And Brave Corrin is interesting because we have saves are in an interesting spot. And I talked about that somewhat when I talked about Brave Hector and Brave Ephraim, but I think it's more relevant to her. Specifically far saves, I want to say. Because, like, there's a very clear hierarchy when it comes to far saves. It's like Myr, and then like Amelia, and then like Winter Byleth, and then like the rest is like a Wild West, basically. Which is why you have people using like Nagi and Valentine's Lucina and units like that. Brave Corrin, I think, is still a decent far save. She's a speedy far save, and with the Hardy Fighter build, you can definitely make her work pretty well. You have to run the Hardy Fighter build in order to survive things. Although I think these days, High Dragon Wall is on the rise, which is interesting. I haven't really tested that out yet, but apparently it works pretty well, so that is also another option. I will say, her being able to apply the stones is really, really good support, even though it's in a very limited range. So it's not like Lumera or anything like that. Like, I do think Brave Corrin, as a save, can help a lot more when you like run her into Omni Tank team, like with Emblem Ike to apply like the save AoE and things like that. And as a save herself, like, again, the stones really help against AoEs. Helped me against Nido Valir, actually, from being able to kill Brave Corrin, so that was a plus. So yeah, like, she can still work as a save. She's definitely far from the top though, but people have rarely used her in Summoners duels, so I do think that's worth mentioning. So yeah, I do think she's still a pretty good save. She's just not that good, if you know what I mean. But I could still like recommend her if you like don't have like Myr or anything like that. So yeah, definitely A tier. Probably better than Brave Marianne just due to Summer Duel's relevance. But yeah, this is the tier list, I would say. Yeah, honestly, the thing about these tier lists is that, especially at the beginning, it's really hard to rank these because a lot of these units are just not that good. Meanwhile, we have like Brave Chrom, who's about to get a refine, who's like legit the best Brave unit from this batch. I'm very curious to see what they do for CYL 8, but we'll just have to wait and see. And yeah, hopefully you all enjoyed this. Again, this is just my opinion, so like, if you have a different opinions, be sure to let me know down in the comments below. Again, I rank these out of how valuable they are versus other options, considering the main competitive modes. And so your ranking might be different than mine, but that's okay. That's what makes FEH great. FEH great, you know, like we have all these different opinions, which is amazing. And yeah, can't wait to see what CYL 8 brings. Again, do let me know what your rankings are down in the comments, and hopefully you all enjoyed this. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that jazz to help support the channel. Only takes 5 seconds to subscribe, but it truly does help with the channel a lot, and I really do appreciate all the constant support. And yeah, a big shout out to all the members of the channel. Without your support, without all your constant support, I wouldn't be where I am today, and so I'm truly grateful. Obviously, you don't have to be a member if you don't want to, but for those who do, I'm eternally grateful, and I really, really do appreciate it, and very thankful. And yeah, hope you all have an amazing rest of the day, and see you all next time. Bye, everyone!